Warning: this story contains mature themes and intense emotional drama. Viewer discretion advised. Crescent Moon, he was a billionaire, ruthless and obsessed, but his eyes were fixed on someone completely unexpected, the maid's daughter. "I want you mindless before I'm even inside," he whispered, his words sending shivers down her spine. In that moment, her simple life was about to be consumed by power, obsession, and desire. Would she survive his obsession, or would her heart betray her? Hello, dear listeners. Thank you for joining me today. Before I begin my story, I would be very happy if you subscribed to the channel and left a comment writing which state or country you are listening from. It always warms my heart to see how far our stories travel. So now, let me tell you this story. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. My name is Olivia Bennett, and I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I've always led a quiet, ordinary life, helping my parents, going to work, and dreaming of a future that felt safe and predictable. I never imagined that in a single moment, everything I thought I knew about my life would be turned upside down. He was Alexander Royce, a billionaire who ruled the corporate world with his charm, power, and relentless ambition. He was the kind of man whose name alone made headlines, whose presence in a room made people either fall in awe or fear. Yet, among all the luxuries, attention, and endless opportunities his life offered, he found himself drawn to something, or rather, someone completely unexpected. "Me. I want you mindless before I'm even inside," he whispered the first time our eyes met. I froze. Those words were not just spoken, they were felt, powerful, commanding, and impossibly dangerous. In that instant, my ordinary world collided with a life of obsession, desire, and dark intrigue. Character introduction. Alexander Royce, billionaire. Alexander was young, stunning, and dangerously charismatic. He had the world at his feet: luxury cars, sprawling mansions, high-profile parties, but beneath the glamorous exterior was a man who craved control, possession, and dominance, especially over the one person who seemed untouchable: me. He was magnetic, commanding, and terrifying in the way only true power can be. Nothing in his life seemed unattainable, except the one thing he suddenly wanted more than anything: me. Olivia Bennett, Maid's daughter. I grew up in a modest household. My parents worked tirelessly to make ends meet. I was always practical, humble, and loyal to my family. Simple dreams, grounded life. Independent, kind-hearted, and cautious. Never imagined that my life would intersect with someone like Alexander. Setting/atmosphere. Life in Fort Lauderdale had always been peaceful for me. Our small house was warm and filled with laughter. My mornings were spent helping my mother prepare breakfast, and my evenings were full of chores, homework, and quiet moments of reflection. Alexander's world was a stark contrast. Towering skyscrapers, luxury cars, exclusive parties. Every desire fulfilled at a whim, every person responding to his power. Yet, somehow, he noticed me, a girl from a world so small and ordinary it almost seemed invisible. First encounter: building suspense. It happened at a charity gala in one of the most opulent hotels in Miami. I had been hired to help with catering, serving drinks, and hors d'oeuvres. The room glittered with the wealth and glamour of Miami's elite. And there he was, Alexander Royce, in a tailored suit that looked like it was made for royalty, scanning the crowd with sharp eyes. Our eyes met, and I felt something I hadn't anticipated: a pull, a weight in the room that made my heart race. He was staring at me. Not casually, but as if he could see through every layer of my life. His gaze was intense, calculating, almost obsessive. I tried to keep moving, focusing on my work, but it was impossible. Every time I looked up, he was there, watching, studying, measuring. It was unnerving, terrifying, yet strangely magnetic. Internal conflict. Alexander's perspective. He watched me and thought, "She doesn't belong to this world, but I need her. I need her to be mine in every sense." His obsession grew with every passing second. Every detail of me, the way I moved, the sound of my laugh, the nervous twitch of my fingers, consumed him. He realized that this was no ordinary attraction. This was an all-consuming desire, an obsession that would not be denied. Olivia's perspective/emotional tension. I felt it too, in a way I didn't understand. Fear, curiosity, and an inexplicable pull. Something about him was frightening, yet I couldn't ignore it. His power was tangible. His stare was almost hypnotic. My mind screamed for caution, but a small part of me couldn't help being drawn into his orbit. Escalation/first dialogue. Later, as I was taking a break in a quiet corner, he approached. "Olivia," he said, his voice low and commanding. "I don't think you understand the effect you have on me. Soon, you will feel it too." I tried to step back, but his presence was overwhelming. A strange mix of fear and fascination coursed through me. This was the first time I realized my life, as ordinary as it had been, was over. Alexander's world had collided with mine, and there was no turning back. The days after the gala blurred together in a way I couldn't explain. Every time I thought of Alexander, my chest tightened, my thoughts scattered, and a shiver ran down my spine. I kept telling myself it was just fear, just imagination, but deep down I knew it was something more. Something impossible to ignore. I went back to my routine, pretending nothing had happened. The Bennett household was quiet in the mornings, the sound of my mother humming as she prepared breakfast, my father leaving for his job in construction, the soft rustle of my younger brother's backpack as he headed out for school. Ordinary. Safe. Predictable. Yet, with Alexander's gaze burned into my mind, nothing felt ordinary anymore. First real encounter outside the gala. It happened 3 days later, unexpectedly. I was walking down Los Olas Boulevard, heading home after running errands for my mother. The sun was beginning its slow descent, painting the streets with golden light. I could hear the faint hum of traffic, the laughter of tourists, and the rhythmic click of my shoes on the pavement. And then I saw him. Alexander. He leaned casually against a sleek black Aston Martin, one hand resting on the hood, the other holding his phone. He hadn't noticed me yet. My first instinct was to turn around, to escape into the crowd, but my feet froze. His head lifted, and our eyes locked. My stomach lurched. This time there was no gala, no glittering crowd, just him. Just his presence, as powerful as it had been at the gala, magnified tenfold. He stepped toward me. Slow, deliberate. Each movement radiated control. "Olivia," he said, his voice smooth, commanding, yet strangely tender. "Do you always walk around thinking the world can protect you?" I swallowed hard. I just run errands," I stammered. My voice sounded small even to my own ears. "That's adorable," he replied, a small smirk forming at the corner of his lips. "You're adorable." I took a cautious step back, trying to create distance, but Alexander seemed to shrink it effortlessly. "You know," he said, tilting his head, "most people don't notice things like you. Most people walk past, invisible, forgettable. But I noticed. I always notice." His words sent a thrill I didn't want to feel, an unsettling heat that crawled up my neck. Alexander's obsession intensifies. By the time I got home, my mind was spinning. Every word, every glance, every little smile from Alexander was etched into my memory. I tried to convince myself it was harmless. After all, I had no reason to be caught up in a billionaire's world, but there was a strange magnetism about him, a dangerous pull I couldn't resist. Alexander, on the other hand, wasn't content with casual glimpses. His obsession was growing, and he wasn't subtle about it. He had private investigators track my schedule, not in a menacing way, at least that's what he told himself, but enough to know when and where I would be. He began to orchestrate chance encounters, coincidental meetings that were never coincidental at all. It started with the grocery store. I was carefully stacking oranges into a bag when he appeared, leaning casually against the produce aisle. "Do you shop here often?" he asked, as if it was the most natural question in the world. I just needed a few things," I replied, heart hammering. "You always seem to pick the freshest fruit," he said, examining my selections with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. "I've noticed." It was impossible to ignore the feeling of being scrutinized, studied, analyzed. Yet beneath the discomfort was a bizarre, undeniable intrigue. Zoya's emotional conflict. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself caught in a storm of conflicting emotions. I was terrified of Alexander, terrified of what his obsession could mean. But I also felt something dangerous, a curiosity, a magnetic pull toward him that made me question my own feelings. I caught myself thinking about him at odd moments, in the shower, while doing laundry, even while helping my mother cook dinner. It was maddening. I tried to suppress the thoughts, but they only grew stronger. At school, my younger brother noticed my distraction. "Olivia, what's wrong?" he asked one evening as I sat quietly in the living room. "Nothing," I said quickly, forcing a smile. But the truth was, everything was wrong. My life had been simple, predictable, safe, and now Alexander had pulled me into a world I didn't understand, a world that was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. First real power play. Alexander wasn't just obsessed, he was strategic. One evening, he showed up at the small cafe where I worked part-time. I was stacking cups behind the counter when I heard his voice. "Olivia," he said, leaning over the counter with that familiar smirk. "Do you know how beautiful you look under soft light?" I flushed and looked away, trying to hide my reaction. "You don't get it, do you?" he continued. "I don't want to just see you. I want to own every glance, every thought, every heartbeat you give me." My hands shook slightly as I fumbled with the cups. His presence was overpowering, almost suffocating, yet I couldn't move. I'm just doing my job," I managed to whisper. "That's the beauty of it," he said, his eyes darkening. "You think you're in control, but you're not." For a moment, I felt a mix of fear, confusion, and something I couldn't name, a strange, dangerous attraction. Escalating tension. Alexander began to appear more frequently in places I never expected. At the library, pretending to read, watching my every move. At the park, jogging when I went for a quiet walk. Even at the grocery store, as if by coincidence. Every encounter was calculated, every word, every glance designed to unsettle me, to make me think of him even when he wasn't there. I began to dread leaving the house, yet a part of me couldn't stay away. There was a thrill in these encounters, a magnetic pull that I couldn't resist, no matter how much I told myself. 2. The first confession. One night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alexander invited me to a rooftop cafe overlooking the city. He said it was to talk, but I could feel the weight of his obsession in every step he took toward me. "Olivia," he said, his voice low and unwavering. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me? To my thoughts, my every waking moment." I don't understand," I whispered, my fingers clutching my bag. He leaned closer, so close I could feel his breath. "I can't stop thinking about you. Every detail, every movement, every heartbeat, you consume me. I want to see you, touch you, know everything about you." I froze, panic and fascination colliding in a storm inside me. "This is dangerous," I managed to say. "Dangerous," he replied with a dark, slow smile. "No, Olivia. This isn't dangerous. This is inevitable." Daily life under obsession. In the following days, I tried to return to normal life, school, part-time work, helping my parents. But nothing felt normal. Alexander's presence lingered like a shadow over every moment. I noticed subtle changes in myself. I became more cautious about my movements. I replayed every encounter in my head, analyzing every word he'd said. I was both terrified and inexplicably drawn to him, struggling to understand my own reactions. Alexander, on the other hand, was growing bolder. His obsession was no longer subtle. Every interaction pushed boundaries, testing my patience, my curiosity, and my emotions. A moment of vulnerability. One rainy afternoon, I found myself sitting by my bedroom window, watching the drops race down the glass. My mind was a storm of confusion, fear, and fascination. I whispered to myself, "Why can't I stop thinking about him? Why does he make me feel like this?" I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that Alexander had entered my life, and there was no turning back. My simple world was gone, replaced by a dangerous, thrilling, obsessive force that I didn't know how to escape. The weeks passed, and Alexander's presence in my life was becoming impossible to ignore. He wasn't just a name, A fleeting image or a shadow in my mind, he had become a force, tangible and overwhelming. Every encounter left me drained, both terrified and inexplicably drawn to him. I tried to focus on normal life, my schoolwork, helping my parents, and small routines that once brought comfort, but each day, Alexander's shadow stretched further into my world. The unexpected visit. One afternoon, as I was arranging flowers for the small cafe where I worked part-time, the door opened, and there he was. "Olivia," he said, leaning casually against the doorway, his tailored suit a sharp contrast to the warm, humble environment. "You look perfect here." My heart thumped violently. "Alexander, you can't just show up like this," I whispered. "Why not?" His voice was low, commanding. "I like being where you are. It's comforting." Comforting? The word made no sense in my mind. It should have felt threatening. It did feel threatening. And yet, I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Alexander's obsession deepens. Alexander's obsession had taken a more deliberate form. He began sending small, unexpected gifts, a single white rose left at the cafe counter, a book I had mentioned casually weeks ago, even tickets to a play I had wanted to see. Each gift came with a note. "You belong in my world. Sooner or later, you'll see it too." It wasn't just a gesture of affection, it was a subtle claim, a way to infiltrate my life, to remind me that he was always there, always watching. I tried to resist, but the more I resisted, the more my thoughts were consumed by him. Even my dreams were no longer my own. An evening that changed everything. One evening, my parents asked me to help set up a small charity dinner at a nearby estate. I didn't realize that Alexander had arranged to be there as well. I walked into the grand hall, the warm glow of chandeliers reflecting off polished floors, the gentle murmur of the crowd filling the room. And then, there he was, leaning against the balcony railing, eyes scanning the crowd, searching for me. When our eyes met, the world seemed to narrow, leaving only the two of us. I could feel his gaze like a physical weight pressing down on me. "You're here," he said softly, stepping closer. "Just as I hoped." I didn't expect you," I stammered, trying to keep my voice steady. He smiled, a slow, deliberate curve of his lips. "I never let opportunity slip by, Olivia. Especially not when it comes to you." The push and pull. Alexander had mastered the art of tension. Every word he spoke, every look he gave, was a calculated push and pull. He wanted me to feel the thrill, the fear, the curiosity, all at once. "You can pretend to ignore me," he said later, as we walked along a quiet corridor away from the crowd. "But I can see it in your eyes. You feel it too." I don't know what you mean," I whispered, my pulse racing. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Yes, you do. You just won't admit it. But one day you will. And when you do, everything changes." Internal conflict, Olivia. I couldn't sleep that night. His words, his touch, the way he watched me, it replayed in my mind, over and over. I was terrified of him. I hated the way he made me feel, the way my heart responded without permission. And yet, there was a part of me that couldn't help being fascinated, drawn to the intensity of his obsession. I questioned myself constantly. Was I weak for feeling this way? Was it natural to be curious about someone so dangerous? Could I escape the pull of someone whose world was so different from mine? Alexander's perspective, dark obsession. Alexander, meanwhile, reveled in the control he was beginning to establish. Every smile, every nervous glance from me fueled his desire. He watched me from afar at school, timed my routines, and noted even the smallest of habits. He justified it in his mind as care, but deep down, it was more than care, it was ownership, obsession, a need to consume every part of my life. Soon, he murmured to himself one evening, watching me walk home from work, "She'll see that there's no world without me." Escalating tension in public spaces. In public, Alexander remained impeccable, polite, charming, and utterly captivating. But in private, or even in moments when only I noticed, there was a dangerous edge. The way he cornered me in hallways, his presence blocking escape. The subtle intensity in his eyes that left me breathless. The slow, deliberate words designed to unsettle me, to claim me piece by piece. Each encounter blurred the line between fear and fascination, desire and dread. Zoya/Olivia's emotional struggle. I tried to tell myself to resist, to stay grounded, to focus on reality. But Alexander was always there, a storm I could neither ignore nor escape. I found myself replaying every interaction, analyzing every nuance. My feelings were a dangerous cocktail of fear, attraction, confusion, and curiosity. I hated the power he had over me, and yet I couldn't stop thinking about him. Every ordinary moment was tainted now by the awareness of him, at the grocery store, in the library, walking past my own home. His presence lingered like a shadow, always just out of reach, always close enough to unsettle me. A moment of vulnerability. One rainy afternoon, I found myself sitting on the porch of our small house, watching the drops race down the window. I hugged my knees to my chest, whispering into the quiet. Why can't I stop thinking about him? Why does he make me feel like this? No answer came. Only the echo of his presence haunted me, even though he wasn't there. I realized that Alexander had invaded not just my life, but my mind, my heart, my every thought. Alexander's dark confidence. In his penthouse overlooking the city, Alexander watched the rain streak against the windows. His obsession was no longer subtle. He had woven himself into every corner of my life, a constant, undeniable force. This is only the beginning, he whispered to himself. She doesn't even know it yet, but she belongs to me. Section C closing. By the end of these weeks, my life had shifted completely. The ordinary, safe world I had known was gone, replaced by a thrilling, terrifying reality. Alexander's obsession had become the axis around which my life now revolved, and I had no idea how or if I could escape it. The following weeks were a blur of tension, fascination, and undeniable pull. I had begun to notice subtle shifts in myself, how my thoughts always drifted toward Alexander, how my body reacted to his presence even when I tried to resist, how ordinary moments felt charged with anticipation and fear. Every day, he seemed to find new ways to insert himself into my life, always pushing boundaries, always leaving me teetering between dread and intrigue. A dangerous invitation. One evening, a sleek black car pulled up outside my house. Alexander stepped out, dressed impeccably as always. I froze at the sight of him, unsure how to react. "Olivia," he said, his voice smooth yet commanding, "I have something important to show you." I hesitated. I don't think I should. Don't think. Just come, he interrupted, a hint of impatience in his tone. There was no yelling, no anger, but the authority in his voice left me no room for argument. The rooftop revelation. He drove me to his penthouse, the city lights twinkling below as if the world itself belonged to him. We stepped onto the rooftop terrace, the cool night air brushing my face. "You see all this?" he said, gesturing toward the skyline. "Every light, every building, every heartbeat of this city. I can control it. And soon, you'll realize, Olivia, that controlling you is the only thing I want even more." I took a cautious step back. I can't be part of your world," I whispered. He smiled, dark and confident. "You already are, whether you admit it or not. You feel it, don't you?" Power dynamics intensify. Alexander's obsession was no longer subtle. Every glance, every word, every gesture carried intent. It wasn't about romance or affection. It was about possession, about dominance, about asserting control over someone entirely unprepared for the intensity of his world. He was everywhere I went, sometimes in ways I didn't immediately notice. Small gestures, like leaving a single rose where I would find it or appearing unexpectedly at places I frequented. Every interaction forced me to confront the strange mixture of fear, fascination, and curiosity I felt for him. Olivia's inner turmoil. I began to question myself constantly. Was I weak for feeling drawn to him? Was it natural to feel this dangerous attraction to someone so overwhelming? Could I maintain any semblance of control over my own life, or had it already slipped through my fingers? Every attempt to focus on normal life, school, work, family, was thwarted by the mental and emotional grip Alexander had on me. Even in my quietest moments, his presence lingered, a shadow over my thoughts. A moment alone. One late evening, after a long day at work, I found myself sitting by my bedroom window, staring out at the city lights. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil inside me, unsettled, restless, and impossible to ignore. Why can't I stop thinking about him? I whispered to the night. Why does he have this power over me? The answer was clear, though frightening. Alexander had claimed not just a place in my life, but a place in my mind, my heart, and my very being. Resistance felt futile. Alexander's perspective. From his penthouse above the city, Alexander watched the lights below, but his mind was consumed by me. She doesn't know it yet, he murmured to himself, but soon she will. Soon she'll understand that the only world she can belong to is mine. His obsession was complete, calculated, and relentless. He had woven himself into every aspect of my life, leaving me little choice but to acknowledge the undeniable pull I felt toward him. A glimpse of vulnerability. Despite his confidence, Alexander was not without moments of vulnerability. Occasionally, I would catch a glimpse of the man behind the power, the intensity in his eyes that betrayed more than just desire, the faint tremor in his voice when he thought no one was listening. These moments only made him more enigmatic, more compelling, and more terrifying. I realized that what I felt for him, fear, fascination, attraction, was mirrored in his obsession for me. By the end of this section, my ordinary life had been irrevocably altered. Alexander's presence had become an inescapable force. I was drawn to him, terrified of him, and unable to resist the power he held over me. The foundation of our story was set. Obsession, power, and desire had intertwined in ways I could not predict, leaving me suspended between fear and curiosity and irrevocably caught in Alexander's world. The days after that rooftop encounter felt like a whirlwind. I couldn't escape Alexander's presence, not in my thoughts, not in my routines, and certainly not in the quiet moments when I thought I was alone. It was as if he had become a part of me, entwined with my every heartbeat. And the more I tried to resist, the more I realized that resistance itself was futile. An unexpected invitation. One afternoon, a sleek envelope appeared on my doorstep. There was no return address, only my name scrawled in an elegant, familiar handwriting. Olivia, I would like to see you. Tonight. Alexander. My hands trembled as I held it. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to throw it away and pretend it didn't exist. But curiosity, fear, and a strange, unexplainable pull made me keep it close. By the time evening came, I found myself standing outside a private art gallery in downtown Fort Lauderdale. The city lights reflected off the glass walls, casting shadows that seemed alive, moving, watching. Inside the gallery. The moment I stepped inside, Alexander was there. He was standing near a large abstract painting, perfectly still, as if waiting for me to arrive. His eyes met mine immediately, and my breath caught in my throat. Olivia, he said softly, the faintest smile tugging at his lips. I wanted you to see something. I followed him cautiously, my instincts screaming that this was dangerous, yet something in me compelled me to stay. The gallery was empty, save for the two of us. And then he turned, revealing a collection of photographs, images of places I had been, things I had done, moments I had thought were private. You see, he said, his voice low and deliberate, I notice everything. Every detail. Every moment. Nothing escapes me. A chill ran down my spine. I wanted to be angry, to scream, to run, but I was frozen, unable to comprehend the depth of his obsession. Alexander's obsession escalates. It was clear now, this was no ordinary attraction. Every interaction, every gift, every word had been a careful step toward establishing control. He had watched me, studied me, and memorized my routines. Each calculated move was designed to unsettle me, to draw me closer, to make me acknowledge his dominance over my world. I realized with a sinking feeling that he was always several steps ahead, orchestrating moments that made my heart race with a mix of fear and inexplicable fascination. You think you can ignore me, he whispered, stepping closer, but you can't. You already belong here, in my world, whether you admit it or not. I could barely breathe. His words, his presence, his intense gaze, it was suffocating, yet intoxicating. Olivia's struggle. I tried to cling to normalcy, to remind myself that I had a life outside his obsession. But it was impossible. Even small tasks, walking down the street, buying groceries, answering messages, were now colored by the knowledge that he could appear at any moment, that he was always watching, always present in ways I couldn't predict. My thoughts were consumed by him. My emotions were a chaotic storm: fear, desire, curiosity, and something dangerously close to attachment. I hated the power he held over me, but I couldn't deny its effect. An unsettling confession. Later that evening, as we walked along the empty gallery hallway, he spoke again. "Olivia," he said, his tone soft but firm, "do you know what you've done to me? You've invaded my mind, my every thought, my every desire. You are everything." I tried to step back, but the hallway was narrow, and he was too close. I can't," I whispered. "You can," he replied, a dark, slow smile forming. "You just don't know it yet. But soon you will understand the inevitability of us." Every word, every movement was calculated, designed to disarm me, to pull me deeper into his world, whether I wanted it or not. The power dynamics deepen. Alexander's obsession was not only emotional, it was psychological. He wanted control over every aspect of my life, even in subtle ways. The way he orchestrated our encounters, ensuring they were coincidental. The gifts, notes, and gestures that reminded me constantly of his presence. The intensity in his gaze that made ordinary moments feel charged with tension. I felt trapped, yet strangely alive. Every interaction left me questioning myself, my desires, and the boundaries I thought I had. A moment alone. That night, I returned home, exhausted and emotionally drained. I sat on my bed, staring at the ceiling, whispering to myself, "Why can't I stop thinking about him? Why does he have this effect on me? How did he get into my life so completely?" There was no answer, only the echo of his presence lingering in my mind, a reminder that my ordinary life was gone. Alexander had become a force I could not ignore, a shadow in every corner of my thoughts, and a storm that refused to pass. My life had changed irrevocably. Alexander's obsession had escalated, his control subtly entwining with my daily existence. Fear, fascination, and desire were all tangled together, leaving me unprepared for the intensity of the next chapter. The days following our encounter at the gallery blurred into a dizzying cycle of tension and anticipation. Alexander's presence had become impossible to ignore, and I found myself walking on a thin line between fear and fascination. Every time I stepped outside, every glance at my phone, every subtle sound seemed to carry his presence. It was suffocating, thrilling, and maddening all at once. Unexpected messages. It began with text messages, carefully crafted, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. "Olivia, I see you everywhere. Even when you think I don't." My hands would tremble when I read them. I tried to ignore the growing sense of unease, convincing myself that these were mere coincidences, or that I had misinterpreted the intent. But deep down, I knew better. Each message was a reminder of his control, a whisper of his obsession that I could not escape. A sudden meeting. One evening, as I walked home from work, the streets dimly lit by street lamps, I saw him again. Standing under the glow of a lamppost, his silhouette commanding and precise. "Olivia," he said softly as I approached, "you seem distracted lately. I thought we should talk." I hesitated. "Alexander, I can't keep doing this. You're everywhere." He stepped closer, the intensity in his gaze almost unbearable. "Everywhere?" he asked, a hint of amusement in his tone. "No, Olivia. You're underestimating yourself. You think you can escape, but you've already let me in." Emotional conflict. His words cut through me. Every attempt to rationalize my feelings, every effort to resist, was failing. My heart raced uncontrollably whenever he was near. My mind replayed every encounter, analyzing every detail. I hated the hold he had over me, yet I couldn't deny its effect. I realized that fear and fascination had intertwined so tightly that I could no longer separate them. Alexander's psychological control. He wasn't subtle anymore. Alexander's obsession had become deliberate and calculated. He began orchestrating coincidental encounters at places I frequented. His gifts, his messages, his words were carefully timed to unsettle me, draw me in, and make me acknowledge his presence. Every interaction was designed to make me feel powerless and intrigued at the same time. "You see, Olivia," he said one evening as we walked along a quiet pier, "I don't need permission. You think you can resist me, but resistance only makes you think of me more. That's how I know it's real." A vulnerable moment. Despite the intensity of his obsession, there were fleeting moments where I glimpsed something human beneath the surface. One rainy afternoon, I found him sitting at the park where I sometimes went to clear my mind. He wasn't imposing or commanding, just watching the rain, silent, contemplative. I approached cautiously. "Alexander, why are you here?" "Because," he said quietly, "even when I'm not around, I can't stop thinking about you. I can't let you out of my mind. Not for a second." The raw honesty of it was unsettling, and yet, strangely, it made my chest ache in ways I didn't expect. Escalating obsession. Alexander's obsession had evolved into a constant presence in my life. I began noticing him in places I hadn't expected, yet he always had a plausible explanation. His gaze followed me even in crowds, in stores, in hallways of my school. Subtle gestures, a note, a gift, or even a glance, kept my mind constantly fixated on him. I was caught in a cycle of fear, fascination, and curiosity. I wanted to resist, yet a part of me couldn't help being drawn toward him. A dangerous proposition. One night, as the city lights shimmered against the river, he invited me to a private dinner at his penthouse. "You don't need to say yes," he said gently, though the power behind his words was undeniable. "But I want you there. Tonight. Just us." I hesitated. Every instinct screamed to refuse. But a small, undeniable pull, the curiosity, the fascination, the dangerous allure, made me nod. "You'll see," he added softly, "that there's no world without me. And the sooner you understand that, the easier it will be for both of us." Olivia's internal struggle. I lay awake that night, my mind spinning. Alexander's presence was everywhere, even in the quiet moments of my room. I questioned my own feelings. Was I weak for feeling drawn to him? Was it natural to be intrigued by someone so overwhelming? Could I maintain any control over my life, or had I already surrendered without realizing it? Fear, fascination, and desire had become inseparable. I hated the control he had over me, yet I couldn't deny its effect. Alexander's dark satisfaction. From his penthouse overlooking the city, Alexander watched the lights below, but his thoughts were consumed by me. "She belongs to this world now," he murmured to himself. "Even if she doesn't know it yet, she can't escape me. Every step, every thought, every heartbeat, mine." His obsession was complete, unwavering, and meticulously planned. The tension and stakes had escalated. Alexander's obsession was no longer subtle. It was a powerful, inescapable force entwined with every moment of my life. Fear, fascination, and curiosity had merged into a constant storm, leaving me on the edge of something I couldn't yet fully understand or control. The city lights reflected on the water as I walked along the pier, trying to make sense of the chaos that Alexander had introduced into my life. Every step I took was haunted by memories of him, his gaze, his words, the way he seemed to occupy every corner of my thoughts. I wanted to resist. I wanted to reclaim my life. But the more I tried, the more impossible it became. An unexpected encounter. It happened at the small cafe where I often worked. I was stacking plates and trying to focus on something mundane when I felt a presence behind me. "Olivia," Alexander said softly, leaning against the doorway. His presence immediately filled the room, his gaze locking onto mine. "Alexander, what are you doing here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just checking on you," he said with a small smirk. "Making sure you're all right." There was a darkness in his eyes, an intensity that made my chest tighten. Even the simplest words from him carried power I could neither resist nor fully understand. The obsession deepens. Alexander had started to manipulate our encounters with precision. Nothing felt accidental anymore. He appeared in places I frequented without explanation. His gifts, small gestures, and even casual comments were designed to leave me unsettled yet intrigued. He seemed to know exactly how to push boundaries, creating a strange mix of fear and fascination. "You see, Olivia," he said one evening as we walked along the quiet streets of Fort Lauderdale, "you can pretend to ignore me, but I know your thoughts better than you do." I shivered. I don't know what to say." "That's all right," he replied, a faint smile forming. "You don't need to say anything. Just know that resistance is futile." Olivia's emotional conflict. My life had become a delicate balance between fear and fascination. I hated the control he had over me, but I couldn't deny the pull, the magnetic force that drew me closer with every interaction. I questioned myself constantly. Was it weakness to feel this way? Could I trust my own instincts when they were clouded by him? The simple, safe world I had once known felt like a distant memory. Every day was a struggle. Every glance, every word, every moment was tinged with tension, and I couldn't escape the fact that Alexander had become central to my thoughts, my emotions, my life. A private confrontation. One rainy night, he invited me to his penthouse. The elevator ride was silent. Each floor passed a reminder of the vast world he inhabited: luxury, power, control. When the doors opened, the penthouse was bathed in soft, golden light. He gestured toward the city view. "Olivia," he said, his voice low and commanding, "look at this city. Every light, every street, every heartbeat below. I can control it. And soon, you'll understand that controlling you is the only thing I desire more than anything else." I felt a chill. I can't be part of your world," I whispered, almost afraid of my own voice. He stepped closer, closing the distance between us. "You already are, Olivia. You just don't realize it yet." Alexander's psychological manipulation. He was no longer just obsessed, he was strategic. Each interaction, each word, each glance was carefully orchestrated. To unsettle me. To make me think of him even when he wasn't there. To assert a subtle, undeniable dominance over every part of my life. "You feel it too," he said one evening, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "The pull, the tension, the inevitability. You can fight it, but you can't escape it." Not really. Olivia's vulnerability. Despite my efforts to stay strong, there were moments when I faltered. Alone in my room, replaying every encounter in my head. Feeling my pulse race at the memory of his touch, his words, his gaze. Questioning everything I had once believed about love, desire, and fear. Alexander had woven himself into the fabric of my existence. I could no longer separate him from my thoughts, my emotions, or my life. A glimpse of humanity. Occasionally, I saw a softer side of him. Moments when the intensity softened, revealing something vulnerable beneath the obsession. A fleeting hesitation before a word. A rare, gentle smile when he thought no one was watching. A quiet moment of reflection, almost tender, that made him more enigmatic, more compelling, and more terrifying. These glimpses only intensified my emotional conflict, leaving me caught between fear, fascination, and an inexplicable attraction I couldn't name. Was clear, Alexander's obsession was no longer subtle or occasional. It had become an all-encompassing force in my life. Fear, fascination, and desire were entwined in ways I could not untangle, leaving me suspended in a dangerous, thrilling, and unpredictable reality. The following days were suffocating, yet intoxicating. Alexander's presence had infiltrated every corner of my life, my thoughts, my routines, even my quietest moments. I could no longer imagine a world where he did not exist, and the pull between us was growing stronger by the hour. I wanted to resist, to reclaim my life, but the more I tried, the more I realized how deeply I had already been drawn into his orbit. An unexpected proposal. One evening, he called me to meet at a secluded rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. The soft glow of string lights cast delicate shadows across our faces, highlighting the intensity of his gaze. "Olivia," he began, his voice low and commanding, "I know you're afraid. I know you're confused. But I need you to understand something. My world, my life, and everything I am. I want you to be part of it. I shook my head, my hands trembling. Alexander, this isn't. I can't. You can, he interrupted, taking a step closer. You just don't realize it yet. And soon you will. The resistance you feel is part of the process. But you'll see, you belong here with me. The emotional turmoil. My mind raced. Every attempt to maintain control, every effort to assert independence, seemed futile. I was terrified of him, yet inexplicably drawn to him. His obsession had become a force I could neither resist nor fully understand. Fear, fascination, and desire were entwined in a dangerous spiral, leaving me constantly on edge. Even as I tried to focus on normal life, school, work, family, I felt the relentless pull of his presence, a shadow over every moment of my existence. Alexander's dark determination. From his penthouse, Alexander observed the city with a calculated intensity. Every step, every gesture, every encounter was meticulously planned. His obsession was complete, unwavering, and all-consuming. She doesn't even know it yet, he whispered to himself, watching me through carefully orchestrated means. But soon, she'll understand that she belongs to me. Every thought, every heartbeat, every moment, mine. A moment of vulnerability. Despite the intensity, there were fleeting moments when Alexander revealed a human side, rare glimpses of vulnerability beneath his commanding presence. A pause before speaking, a hesitation that betrayed more than just control. A quiet, almost tender smile that hinted at an emotional depth beyond obsession. Moments of reflection when his otherwise relentless demeanor softened, revealing glimpses of care and complexity. These moments only intensified my inner conflict, leaving me torn between fear, fascination, and the undeniable pull I felt toward him. Olivia's inner struggle. By now, I was caught in a storm I could neither control nor escape. Every thought was colored by him. Every emotion was heightened by the intensity of his obsession. Fear and attraction had become inseparable, leaving me both powerless and captivated. Even the simple act of walking through my own neighborhood became charged with tension, as though the world itself was aware of his influence over me. The first step toward acceptance. As the evening drew to a close, Alexander reached out and gently held my hand. The warmth of his touch sent shivers through me, mixing fear and fascination in equal measure. Olivia, he whispered, I don't just want you near me. I want you to understand that this is inevitable. You and I, we're bound by something stronger than either of us can fight. I looked into his eyes, searching for something I couldn't define. I was terrified. I was confused. And yet, there was a part of me that longed to believe him, to surrender to the strange, powerful pull he exerted over my life. The story reached a turning point. The tension between us had escalated to its peak. Alexander's obsession was absolute, and I was caught between fear, fascination, and a growing, dangerous attraction. My ordinary life was gone, replaced by a reality where every thought, every moment, and every heartbeat seemed intertwined with his. The stage was set for the next chapter of a story defined by obsession, desire, and the dark, irresistible force that Alexander had become in my life. The nights had grown colder, the city quieter, yet my mind was restless. Alexander's presence lingered everywhere, like a shadow I couldn't escape, yet one I found myself drawn to. Every thought, every heartbeat, was tinged with the knowledge that he had become an inseparable part of my life. I wanted to run, to resist, to reclaim what was left of my ordinary world. But deep down, I knew that escape was no longer an option. A private encounter. One evening, he called me again, insisting we meet at a secluded rooftop overlooking the shimmering skyline. The soft glow of lights reflected off the glass railing, casting shadows that danced across his face, making him look both powerful and dangerous. Olivia, he said, his voice low and commanding, tonight, I want you to see the truth. Not the image of me you think you know, but everything I am and everything I want from you. I hesitated, my chest tightening. Alexander. I don't know if I can. You can, he interrupted, stepping closer, his presence overwhelming. The pull between us isn't a choice. It's inevitable. You feel it, don't you? I couldn't speak. My pulse raced, my mind was a storm, yet a part of me, terrified and unwilling, felt the undeniable truth in his words. The heightened obsession. His obsession had reached a point where even ordinary moments were suffused with tension. Every glance from him was heavy with intention. Every word, subtle or casual, seemed to carry power over my thoughts and emotions. He knew exactly how to push boundaries, creating a mix of fear, fascination, and desire that left me powerless. "You think you have control, Olivia," he whispered, his hand brushing mine, "but the truth is I've already claimed it. Every thought, every heartbeat, every part of you belongs here, with me." Olivia's inner conflict. I was caught in a storm I couldn't navigate. My fear of him clashed with a fascination I could not resist. My mind raced constantly, analyzing every interaction, every glance, every gesture. The ordinary life I had known before him felt like a distant memory, fading under the intensity of his obsession. Even simple moments, walking through the neighborhood, sitting at my desk, or drinking tea, were now charged with tension, colored by the awareness that he could appear or influence my life at any moment. A vulnerable moment. One rainy night, I found myself standing alone on my balcony, watching the rain streak against the glass. My chest ached with the weight of emotions I could neither name nor control. "Why does he have this effect on me?" I whispered to the empty night. "Why can't I escape him?" The answer was obvious, yet terrifying. Alexander had not only entered my life, he had invaded my mind, my heart, my very being. Resistance was futile, and fascination had become an unbreakable tether. Alexander's perspective. From his penthouse, Alexander gazed out over the city, his thoughts consumed by me. "She doesn't know it yet," he murmured, "but she belongs to me. Every step, every thought, every heartbeat, mine. And soon, she'll understand that this is inevitable." Every encounter, every message, every subtle gesture had been meticulously planned, a web to draw me closer and make escape impossible. His obsession was complete, unwavering, and all-consuming. The final pull. By now, the lines between fear, fascination, and desire had blurred. Every thought of him made my pulse race. Every fleeting interaction left me trembling. And every moment alone reminded me that my life would never return to the ordinary, safe existence I once knew. Alexander's hold over me was undeniable. I was caught between resistance and surrender, a dangerous, thrilling tension that neither of us could deny. Alexander's obsession has escalated to its peak. Olivia's fear, fascination, and attraction are intertwined beyond control. Ordinary life is gone, replaced by a reality where every thought, every heartbeat, and every moment is linked to him.